can you introduce yourself?
Name's Daniel Ho. I am currently a senior visual communications major at the University of South Carolina, and I studied 1 year in Brisbane, Australia.
Great. Can you tell us why you decided to study abroad?
That is a good question, and my response is I was too tired of being babied by my parents with taking care of all my responsibilities, and it's the college experience. I wanted to be independent, so I had one requirement. Didn't do any research. I took up a globe and I looked at where's the farthest place I can get away from my parents, and that's where I went. So I said, Australia is on the opposite side of the world. I'm Asian, so I didn't want to pick an Asian country where they visit me. So I was like, Australia, let's do it.
Great. So a lot of students cite financial barriers as reasons why they don't choose to go abroad. If finances were a problem for you or if they were a concern for you, can you explain how you were able to finance your study abroad experience?
Well, after finding out that Australia has 2 times the living cost as America, I knew I had to do some saving up. I had planned a year ahead that I was planning on going abroad, so I was like, all right, I want to work full-time as much as possible because I want to make my dream come true. And I basically worked every single day during the summer leading up to my departure. And luckily, I made a pact with my parents and them being able to fund me in my traveling abroad, and then I'd be able to repay them when I get back.
Great. Can you tell us what you learned in your experience in Brisbane, either in the classroom or through daily interactions, that you don't think you could have learned if you had just stayed in school and on campus?
Being in Brisbane, Australia, I've learned with all the different cultures that were involved at this university, there was probably over 20 different ethnicities I met. The stereotypes that each country has been labeled by, let's say, the other people they've learned from in America, they're very not true. They're just really exaggerated, and be able to connect and actually interact with other international students, it really broke down those barriers, and seeing that we all have a lot of similarities, and then there's all these subtle differences that you begin to know. And I began to get this sense of American pride in myself because I knew that I was a representation of what America was, and not everybody holds America on such a high pedestal. So it's my responsibility to represent America and that there's such good values in the country, and that's what I stood for.
Great. On that same note, do you feel like were there any experiences that you had personally or that you witnessed that kind of were you dealt with stereotypes either as an American or however else you might choose to identify yourself? Like, were there any instances where you dealt directly with something like that? And if so, please tell us how you did or what happened and how you handled that situation.
In Brisbane, it's actually a very multi-diverse culture because 25% of the people from Brisbane come from outside of Australia. So there was actually a huge Asian population compared to the university I'm at right now at USC, where there's maybe 5% Asians, but abroad there's 30% Asians. So I come to realize I'm definitely not Asian, but Asian American. And I say that because 1, I have no Asian accent. 2, I have a very loud voice. 3, I say hamburger. I exaggerate my vowels. So I've realized that I fit out despite me looking Asian. And then as far as stereotypes go, I would say I have some American stereotypes where, let's say when I laugh very loudly. I can come off as rude, but it's just not intentional just because of our culture. So as far as like any potential discrimination, I didn't really meet any of that because I just greeted people with a really big smile, and I didn't give them reasons to discriminate against me. I would tell them like, hey, maybe I'm not as seasonally cultured in knowing what, how to behave, so please educate me. And if they saw my willingness to learn, then they're all for helping me.
That's great. So my last question is, what advice would you give to students who hesitate to go abroad either because of they think it's expensive, or they think they don't have the time, or they think their major is not relevant? What advice do you have?
Think about this. After you graduate college, which is supposedly for the best years of your entire life, think about how the American system's set up. You don't really get the chance to travel for, let's say, a full 5 months or a full year abroad after you graduate looking for that real world job. So the best time to do your traveling and experiencing something new is now, because you can take those risks And also, what do you have to gain if you remained in school for that one extra semester compared to going abroad where it's totally new and you get these newfound experience where you're going to be the hot commodity when you come back and get to tell your friends of your travel experiences, and then they'll be missing out on the opportunity. So that's what I have to say.
Great. Thank you.